Today I'm going to talk about the band Kataclysm, and the name of the album is Goliath, released on August 11, 2023 through Nuclear Blast Records. They are a Canadian death metal band. I discovered them about 2 years ago. I received some VCLT from Aaron Wilson Alamar, and he sent me a package with a bunch of records, and one of them was this last album called Unconquered from 2020. This band has a sound that is unique. I hear a little similarity to a band like Meshuggah. The sound is leaning towards deathcore with a lot of riffs play at the low end. They still have the things that are common with this genre, like the fast drumming and tremolo picking. I find that this band can be very heavy and brutal, but also melodic at times as well. So as always, let me give you some background on the band. Kataclysm are a Canadian death metal band. They have released 14 studio albums, and they also won a Juno Award, which is the Canadian equivalent of the Grammy. And they won it for the heavy metal, or best heavy metal album for the 2015 album of Ghosts and Gods. The band's albums have charted throughout the world, including the Billboard Top 100 in the United States. Let me read a few quotes from the critics. Aggressive and contemptuous of division and dysfunction, Goliath is also everything you could want and expect from a Cataclysm record, marrying thrash punk and melodic death into a lean, muscular whole. 8 out of 10, Metal Hammer UK. Unique, powerful, and uncompromising sound with Goliath. Cataclysm confirmed once again its status as one of the best devastating metal bands ever. 5 out of 6, Metallian. Goliath was recorded at JFD Studios in Dallas, Texas, and Studio City, California, as well as the Cabin in Orlando, Florida, by Jean-François Dagenais, who also produced and engineered the album. The cover artwork depicts the iconic battle of David versus Goliath and was created by Elrian Cantor. As an artist myself, I think this is one of the best covers I've seen from a metal album in some time now. I really like the album cover. So let me get into the songs. Dark Wings of Deception starts off the album. This one lets you know that things will be heavier. They're a little slow at first, but then it takes off with some heavier sections. The song also has some atmospheric parts created by the guitar, using some interesting guitar riffs. The drumming changes tempos from fast to slow, and then some of the guitar riffs seem to have like a mellow death sound. They also use some clean tone to create these haunting sound textures. Goliath is track number 2. This one has some lyrics about David and Goliath, but how it relates to today's society. The song is faster and heavier. It's more straightforward with a slight thrash metal sound. The guitar riffs are very thick and dense, and the drumming is very intense. Die as a King is a very heavy song, but it also has some groove in the sound. They incorporate some melodic death metal elements in some of the sound compositions. Like always, you're going to hear a lot of intense drumming. Bringer of Vengeance is a very heavy song. It comes to you like a giant steamroller that is just crushing everything in its path. But they give you a couple of surprises with these cleaner breakdowns and these more atmospheric sounds. So the band does a really good job of keeping things interesting. I'd also like to mention that the vocals are very harsh, but they're heavy enough you can understand what the singer is saying. Combustion is track number 5, and we're about halfway through the album. Now, the band is not really doing anything different than they have been so far, but they like to sprinkle in these little nuances in all their songs. For example, the song has some isolated guitar parts, and the vocalist uses some different types of screams during the song. From the Land of the Living to the Land of the Dead is a song that continues with the same type of sounds you were hearing before. I like the lyrics of the song because they're about like the rising up and fighting the powers that be. That type of subject matter, which is pretty interesting in the death metal context. They do some interesting things with the guitar riffs, mixing some palm-muted guitar riffs with a complex old-school death metal style. The Redeemer, this song stood out for me, or stood out from the crowd, I guess. I think it was the use of like the brighter guitar riffs and tones. It kind of sounds a little more like traditional heavy metal, but don't get me wrong, it's still a very heavy death metal type of song with some great guitar riffs and some of them leaning towards thrash metal. This one definitely had more of that melodic edge. Heroes to Villains, this one starts with the line, "You are wolves in sheepskin," which is a reference to that old saying, "A wolf in sheep's clothing," referring to corrupt politicians, I assume. As far as the music is concerned, the song is very good. It's heavy death metal, and it does have a kind of a groove element, so I thought it was pretty cool. Gravestones and Coffins was another song that stood out from the crowd. First of all, they had this drum intro, which was almost like a rock drum intro, and they followed it up with a slower guitar riff, which was more leaning towards like a death doom type of sound. The lyrics are pretty straightforward, talking about death, destruction, and the apocalypse. Even though the song had a different type of intro, the main body of the song in general was in line with what we have been hearing with the other songs. They did repeat that groovy guitar riff I was just talking about, which I thought was pretty cool. I like the song a lot, that's all I can say. Track number 10, The Sacrifice for Truth, is the final song, and this one is more leaning towards melodic death metal. They definitely have some of those guitar riffs in the song, and it's also not a very fast-paced song, which was pretty cool. I thought the drumming was very good. There were some interesting drum fills. This is also, I guess, one of the only songs where the bass guitar really stands out. It also has some like slower and atmospheric parts with clean guitars that really creates this haunting and ominous type of feel. So, in conclusion, I thought it was a good album. I will be honest with you, I know this band has 14 albums out, but I've only listened to this one and the one before it, which I was showing in the beginning of the video, and I would say out of those two albums, they're both kind of similar. The one thing I noticed with this album as well as the one before it, is that they seem to put like the heavier songs on the front half of the album and some of the more melodic and experimental ones towards the second half of the album. So I remember on the last album, like Unconquered, they started with a really heavy song called Kill Shot, but then some of the other songs on the other side of the record were a little more melodic. And I think they kind of did the same thing on this album, so that's fine. I don't really have any issues with it, so my score is going to be an 8 out of 10. I think it's something I'll go back to. I'll probably listen to it like doing some type of physical activity. I think it would be a good album to take to the gym. So that's all I'll say. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm going to link a video of the original quick review. I did, like, after I got, like, this album here, and I just did a short video of it. Kind of like a quick album review. So that's linked right there. If you want to check it out, and I'll see you in the next one.